mobile suits of the Titans test team from Advance of Zeta have caused no small amount of confusion over the years, because there's just so many of them out there. And the same goes for their emblems, with a question that I've seen appearing quite a few times being, which emblem belongs to which machine? And to solve this problem, Dengeki Hobby has recently put out a list that not just shows us which emblem belongs to which machine, but also gives us an explanation of what the emblem represents and what the symbolism behind it is. So, let's start at the beginning. One thing that might surprise you is that this squadron, using all of these rabbit-themed emblems on their rabbit-named mobile suits, isn't actually named after a rabbit itself. They're called the Black Otter Team, and their operator actually hates animals, including cute little bunny rabbits, which then caused problems with their leader, Wes Murphy, because he didn't just love rabbits, he actually had a rabbit. And this isn't also why all of their mobile suits were named after rabbits from Watership Down. As for the emblems, these were all designed by Karl Matsubara, one of the main pilots of the Black Otters, and usually assigned to sniper or other long-range mobile suits. The first emblem he designed was a rather basic rabbit, which was jumping in front of a shield. This represented that they operated both in space and on the ground, and it was also a metaphor for them being an experimental unit, with rabbits, of course, famously being used as test animals. This emblem would be used on Elliot Hunter's helmet, as well as Carl's own Gym Sniper 3, and it would later on also be carried over to the Woundwort. Beginning with the Hazels then, we first get this rabbit wearing a flight cap and goggles. These represent the extra armor and other equipment donned by the Gundam TR-1 Hazel, and the emblem was painted on the back skirt. Later on, this mobile suit would be outfitted with the Furudu optional parts, which would then get their own emblem as well. Two rabbit heads arranged in a kind of yin-yang symbol, representing how the two units were working together to show their true power. And this true power was the Hazel Raw. And this emblem would also be carried over to the Furudu 2. But the regular Hazel wasn't the only unit that the Titans test team were using. This bunny girl, with her large ears representing two shield boosters, was originally designed for the Garibaldi Beta high mobility type. But this unit would be lost when its pilot decided to defect to the Ayuk, taking the Beta with him, so instead, this emblem would be used for the Hazel 2. This unit was previously known as the Hazel Reserve Unit, and was supposed to be just a parts machine, but with the loss of the Beta, it would be pushed into active service, and would later on then be upgraded to the Advanced Hazel, which would get its own dedicated emblem. It's a purple demon rabbit with white accents to show how the machines of the Titans test team were kinda like transitioning from their white test colors to their darker combat colors. The white bandage around its ear then symbolizes the enhanced shield booster, which was painted entirely in white. And later on, this symbol would also be used by other machines that got an upgraded advanced form. Also, it is speculated that this design was made to pair nicely with the emblem used by the Gaplin TR-5 Rairu and Fiver. Instead of a demonic rabbit, they got an angelic rabbit with large wings and a spear piercing a carrot. Since the Gaplin was a machine designed for high altitude interception, it was kinda meant to invoke the image of an angel descending from the sky, invoking divine retribution upon its enemies. And this emblem would then also be carried over to its successor units, the Rairu 2 and the Fiver 2. Back to the Hazels then, with the Hazel Ozla. Its emblem featured a rabbit sitting on top of a white box, wrapped in a red ribbon. This emblem was added to the missile pod on its left shoulder to commemorate its rollout, and it was combined with an infinity symbol on the front skirt armor, to kinda symbolize the infinite expandability of the Hazels that we are all so familiar with. So who knows what kind of goodies are hidden inside of that box. One of them was the gigantic arm unit. And rather than a lively rabbit, the rabbit on this emblem is represented as the undead Jiangshi from Chinese folklore. This was done to show how the, by then outdated Hazel, was kept alive through add-on parts. The gigantic arm unit is represented by ear-like appendages hanging from its hat, and the winch units are represented by the spirits floating next to it. This emblem would then most likely be carried over to the Woundwort Psycho Gigantic Arms unit. And the final Tier 1 unit discussed in these documents is the Gundam TR-1 Hazenslee, a heavily modified Hazel that is represented by a knightly rabbit wearing a helmet. Its eyes are looking dead ahead at the future, and its ears have become powerful wings, ready to take off towards that future. This emblem would then also be carried over to the Hazenslee 2. For something completely different then, we have the Bizak TR-2 Bigwig. This was basically a giant beam cannon, where the Hyzak simply served as a control unit. The rabbit is wearing a helmet representing the Hyzak, and it's got a Lanchester-esque submachine gun to represent the Bigwig. It's painted on the shield of the Hyzak and on the rear armor of the Bigwig, and later on, it would also be used on the Bigwig Cannon 2, used by the Woundwort 5-2. Going up a number, we get to the prototype Ashimar TR-3 Kahar, which featured a grey rabbit hitching a ride on a purple UFO with a beak and wings. One thing that set the prototype Ashimar apart from the production version was that it was meant to operate as a sub-flight system. So the UFO represents the Kahar, and the rabbit represents the mobile suit riding on the Kahar. This emblem would also be carried over to the Woundwort Kahar 2, and the prototype Ashimar Space version would use a similar version of the emblem, but this UFO didn't have a beak or wings. Next up, we have the Rosette TR-4 Dandelion, and did their operator design this thing? Because we have a rabbit being roasted in a pan, and it's even showing the ribcage of the poor thing. The frying pan represents the dandelion in its atmospheric re-entry form, and the flames represent the high temperatures that it would have to survive during atmospheric re-entry. The state of the rabbit, though, would not fill me with confidence on how safe this was for the pilot. But hey, they are an experimental unit, and I've heard that rabbit with prunes is really good. This emblem would later on also be used by the Gundam TR-6 Woundwort Dandelion 2. And since we already tackled the TR-5's emblem earlier on in the video, we're staying with the Woundwort and its remaining variants, like the Queenly, a super heavy base defense unit whose weapon containers resembled the crown of a queen, hence its name, Queenly. And this design feature was then also represented in its emblem. The rabbit is drawn as a queen, crown included, and its hair/ears supposedly represent the iconic weapon containers. But as fearsome as it was, the Titans had an even more deadly mobile suit, the Gundam TR-6 Woundwort Inlay. This machine would get a striking golden rabbit with hawk-like wings that made it resemble the emblem of the Titans. Perfect for a machine that was planned to be their ultimate weapon. And finally then, we have the Gundam TRS Hazel Rare, a machine that was planned to be the end result of the TR project. So at the time that Carl was designing the emblem, the machine wasn't actually finalized yet, as symbolized by its shadowy jet black body, which was then outfitted in armor and weapons reminiscent of a Crusader. The article doesn't say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was kinda meant to symbolize their crusade against anyone who was against the Federation. And those were all of the main Titans test team emblems, their meaning, and the mobile suits they were used on. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.